Well, here we go again. This video is a compilation of the latest analog horror series we've analyzed on the channel. But as you'll already know if you've seen the previous video featuring 5 other analog horror series, which I'll link in the pinned comment, don't think I've forgotten about those of you who've already watched the earlier analyses. In addition to explaining them again, I'll be ranking them from my favorite to my least favorite. So, once again, if you've already seen the previous breakdowns, you can skip directly to the part where I place them in the tier list by navigating through the video chapters. Without further ado, don't forget to leave your precious like and subscription to help the channel grow and reach more people. Every like is one more coin to escape poverty. If you're unsure what to comment, just type meow in the comment section and I'll give you a heart in return. Comments are super important and help the video a lot, so don't forget to leave yours. In the pinned comment, besides linking the previous compilation video, which I hope you'll watch after finishing this one to avoid negatively affecting audience retention, I'll also ask this question. Which analog horror series would you like me to analyze and explain next on the channel? Everyone who responds will get a shout out in the next video. Don't forget to follow me on my other social media platforms, where I upload exclusive short content you won't see on YouTube. I'm curious to see how many followers we can gain from this video. Also, remember that you can now become a channel member. Just click the magical button next to the subscribe button to enjoy tons of exclusive perks while supporting me. If you're interested, join in. I'll be eternally grateful. Welcome to 5 more analog horror series explained and ranked in one video. The Mannequin Tapes. Focusing on the content of the first tape, the initial scene shows someone running frantically through a facility as alarms blare in the background. When the individual turns around, we see the reason for his panic. Completely white, seemingly motionless entities are pursuing him. Shortly after, the recording cuts to a distress call originating from the same facility. The person we saw fleeing earlier, an employee of the site, provides a situation report. The worker is dressed in a hazmat suit. Whatever happened inside, it looks very grim. Naturally, the unsettling feeling intensifies as we listen to his message.
High command. The Ironbrook facility has been compromised. Repeat, the Ironbrook facility has been compromised. Anomalies have reached commitment and are spreading rapidly throughout the facility. All personnel have been infected by touching and are turning into more anomalies soon afterwards. I don't have long either. Get fast. Patient. Soon enough they will reach the surface and it'll be it. They won't stop till everyone's like them.
This first tape offers plenty of intrigue despite its short runtime. Firstly, we witness a security breach within the Ironbrook facility, which belongs to the RT Foundation, or Anomaly Research Task Force. This organization appears to function similarly to the SCP Foundation. The facility housed anomalies resembling mannequins that cause severe biological changes, transforming anyone they touch into one of them. This is confirmed by the individual in the distress call. Although the message doesn't provide detailed information about how these creatures operate, we learn that they are fast-moving and aggressively seek to multiply, converting any being into one of their own. The recording also shows the infected worker transforming into one of these anomalies in a matter of moments. With that said, let's move on to the second tape. The video begins by showing the exterior of the ART facility, located in the town of Ironbrook, Australia. In an instant, the scene transitions back inside the facility, revealing what transpired after the previous footage.
Unit 001 has been reached.
What we witness here are the devastating effects of the containment breach. The anomalies, referred to as mannequins, completely overran the facility on December 13th, 2004, at 5:43 p.m., spiraling out of control. From there, the anomalies managed to reach the surface. Now there are hundreds of them, with their numbers growing rapidly. The town is lost. The scene is abruptly interrupted, transitioning to a recording of a group of friends. This footage was taken about an hour after the incident. At first, everything seems normal. Casey, Jack, and Jai are simply enjoying some time in the park, but then the emergency alarms start blaring. Confused by the sound, the group notices the entities. The anomalies appear to interfere with electronic devices, including the camera, causing distortions when recorded. Feeling uneasy, the friends decide to leave the area. Fortunately, they manage to reach their car, where they observe the situation more closely. From the car, they witness more and more people seemingly succumbing to the entities. At the end of the episode, an image provided by ART underscores the severity of the infestation in Ironbrook. By 7 p.m., a significant portion of the town has already fallen to the infection. In just 1 hour and 17 minutes, the outbreak has spread at an alarming rate. 2 hours later, the infection has spread even further. These mannequins appear to be an unstoppable threat at this point. Next, we witness the response of the emergency services.
Police have issued an emergency declaration under the Public Safety Preservation Act due to an ongoing incident in Ironbrook. Authorities are attending to an outbreak of anomalies that are mannequin-like in appearance spreading across the town. The PSPA was declared at 8:30 p.m. with the exclusion zone bordering around the entire Ironbrook area. Members of the public are strongly advised to avoid this area, and those within the exclusion zone are asked to remain indoors until further notice.
The group manages to reach a safe place, the home of one of their members. However, those things are everywhere, so they decide to head inside to seek shelter. They encounter a few close calls, but fortunately, they manage to take refuge. Unfortunately for them, the house is surrounded.
Wait, there's more of them out there.
Emergency alert issued for this region. Evacuation is strongly advised for any remaining residents. Repeat. Evacuation is strongly advised for any remaining residents.
Get to the...
The streets are full of those things. Angel 2-1 to ART command. I've got possible survivors on
By 11 p.m., Ironbrook has been almost entirely lost, prompting a nationwide state of emergency across Australia. But will it be enough to stop them? Finally, we arrive at the last video of the Mannequin Tapes. This one also takes place in Ironbrook, but with a different protagonist trying to escape from these entities. The question is, will they make it? The outbreak had spread beyond the town. The infected stood still, forever silent. They hunt without eyes. The video concludes with a news program reporting on the current state of Australia. We are told that authorities have failed to contain an outbreak of what appears to be mannequins with some level of consciousness, which have overrun the small town of Ironbrook. During the broadcast, we see footage of people during the spread of the anomalies, and even catch glimpses of Casey, Jack, and Jai as they manage to escape. The severe loss of life has led to a joint decision by the Australian government and the ART Foundation to deploy aerial attacks, bombing the area in an attempt to eradicate the threat. At one point, we catch a glimpse of text that reads, "Local authorities were initially skeptical, dismissing the reports as an elaborate prank or the result of mass hysteria. However, as more and more cases surfaced, it became evident that Ironbrook was in the midst of a genuine and bewildering crisis." Local resident Sarah Thompson, 36, described the horror she experienced when her husband, James, inexplicably transformed into a mannequin-like figure. "I watched in disbelief as my husband's skin turned rigid and glossy, just like plastic," she said. "He couldn't move or speak, and his eyes seemed to lose all signs of life. It was like a nightmare come to life." The Australian government swiftly mobilized its resources and deployed the Anomaly Research Facility to Ironbrook. The secretive organization, known for investigating paranormal and unexplained phenomena, is working closely with local authorities to assess the situation and contain the outbreak. Their presence has only fueled speculation and conspiracy theories among the town's residents. Dr. Isabella Walker, the lead researcher at the Anomaly Research Facility, spoke briefly to the press about the ongoing investigation. "We are dealing with unprecedented and highly unusual phenomena," she stated. "Our primary focus right now is to understand the nature of these transformations and to prevent further incidents. We ask for the cooperation and understanding of the public during this challenging time." Local authorities have cordoned off the affected area in Ironbrook and imposed a strict quarantine to prevent the spread of the mysterious affliction. The Australian government has also dispatched medical teams to examine the transformed individuals and determine if there is any hope of reversing the process. In the end, we see a survivor who failed to escape the city in time, their fate sealed along with that of the mannequins. Prehistoric Emergence. In the first episode, an emergency broadcast warns the global population of the urgent need to evacuate all coastal areas and beaches, banning any activities in seas and oceans. The reason for this drastic measure is the reappearance of extinct oceanic species, displaying aggressive behaviors. One theory suggests that a massive blue hole in the ocean has created a passage for these ancient creatures, connecting our waters to a hidden region where they have survived since prehistoric times. The episode lists the detected species, including the Mosasaurus, Dunkleosteus, and Megalodon, all classified as extremely dangerous. The Mosasaurus, a colossal marine predator, is described as a monstrous lizard with razor-sharp teeth capable of tearing through flesh and bone, consuming everything in its path, including humans. This behavior poses a significant threat to oceanic ecosystems and numerous marine species. Measuring up to 50 feet in length, the Mosasaurus can swim at alarmingly high speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, far outpacing the average human swimmer's speed of 2 or 3 miles per hour. These creatures have been spotted across various oceanic climates, from tropical to polar regions, with numerous reports indicating significant activity in the Atlantic Ocean. Documented incidents include attacks on humans, the sinking of small vessels, and even appearances above water to explore their surroundings, prompting recommendations for immediate evacuation upon detection. Next is the Dunkleosteus. Although the video mistakenly describes it as the first apex predator, a viewer's comment clarifies that this title belongs to the Anomalocaris. The Dunkleosteus possesses a heavily armored head, rendering it impervious to standard bullets and requiring high-velocity harpoons or specialized ammunition to neutralize it. At approximately 13 feet in length, its bite force reaches an astonishing 6,000 psi compared to the 3,700 psi of a crocodile. Its agility allows for swift, stealthy attacks, making it an extremely dangerous threat to humans. The only way to survive is to avoid any encounter with this creature. Finally, the Megalodon is described as the ultimate predator. Its insatiable appetite has caused catastrophic declines in marine populations, destabilizing ecosystems. This giant can consume up to 2,500 pounds of food daily and grow over 60 feet long, making it the largest predator in the ocean. Its jaws are large enough to swallow 2 adult humans simultaneously, and its teeth can measure up to 7 inches long. If left unchecked, the Megalodon could cause irreparable damage to marine ecosystems, jeopardizing global food security and economies.
For now, the ocean is no longer in our control.
In the second episode, reports emerge of new prehistoric creatures appearing from caves and deep holes that have recently formed across various parts of the world. The same holes previously found in oceans and seas are now appearing on land. Authorities are advising people to avoid these areas and maintain a safe distance. In Australia, sightings of the Megalania have been recorded. This massive lizard with sharp claws and teeth can reach up to 23 feet in length and weigh over 1,000 pounds. It is an apex predator capable of hunting efficiently in forested environments. Sightings in urban areas have also been documented, significantly increasing the threat to human life. The episode also introduces the woolly mammoth, which can grow up to 14 feet tall and weigh nearly 6 tons. These creatures are considered non-hostile unless provoked. Unfortunately, they are being hunted for their highly valuable tusks, which can fetch prices as high as $10,000. Legislative efforts are underway to ban their hunting, and a zoo in Toronto is preparing an exhibit featuring a live specimen. The episode then revisits the megalodon threat, highlighting efforts to combat this dangerous predator. Fortunately, something's hunting them. The Leviathan, a prehistoric whale, has been identified as a potential ally. Similar in size to the megalodon, the Leviathan holds an advantage in mass, weighing around 57 tons compared to the megalodon's 50 tons. Although its bite force is weaker, the Leviathan's forward-facing teeth, measuring up to 1 foot long, make it difficult for prey to escape. Combined with superior intelligence and durability, it is estimated that the Leviathan would win 65% of confrontations against a megalodon, though the latter has the upper hand in stealth. However, the Leviathan could also pose a threat to marine ecosystems. Elsewhere, Colombia and India have declared states of emergency due to the appearance of prehistoric snakes that can reach up to 45 feet in length and exhibit aggressive behavior towards humans. In Colombia, the titanoboa dominates swamps and aquatic environments, while in India, the Vasuki indicus, a terrestrial snake, preys on large mammals and humans. This snake was named after a mythical serpent associated with the god Shiva. To address these threats, an organization called GPAC has been formed, and many governments are bombing the openings that allowed these prehistoric species to emerge, aiming to prevent further emergencies. The episode concludes with a recording near one of these openings, capturing strange sounds, likely from other prehistoric creatures. Finally, the video suggests that some theories propose these creatures may have surfaced to escape an even greater danger. Viewers are urged to stay vigilant, as more threats could appear at any moment. The following episode begins with the discovery of a third capsized fishing vessel within a week near the Portuguese coast, signaling an increasingly serious oceanic threat. Meanwhile, in Australia, Megalania nests have been found in basements, with one resident reporting the presence of a baby Megalania inside their home. In contrast, residents of Montana and nearby states have entered a state of panic after detecting the presence of dinosaurs in the area. The GPAC organization, responsible for managing this situation, initially implemented a unified strategy of bombing the openings. However, they have decided to suspend this campaign as new openings are appearing at a much faster rate than anticipated. Destroying one opening unexpectedly triggers the appearance of others, rendering the resources spent on bombings ineffective. Instead, the strategy has shifted to adapting to the resurgence of these prehistoric species and studying their origins. Citizens are prohibited from approaching within a mile of the openings, and assistance is being provided to those living nearby. The latest report mentions the sighting of a massive flying predator in Texas known as the Quetzalcoatlus. This creature is described as one of the largest ever known and possibly the largest recorded pterosaur. It stands 16 feet tall, weighs approximately 500 pounds, and boasts a 36-foot wingspan, casting a massive shadow on the ground. In the event of a sighting, immediate shelter in enclosed or confined spaces is strongly advised. A brief segment of the video questions whether all these events are linked to the wrath of Quetzalcoatl, one of the most significant gods in pre-Hispanic Mesoamerican cultures. Despite its toothless beak, the Quetzalcoatlus swallows its prey whole, making digestion a slow and prolonged process. It primarily feeds on small animals such as sheep, deer, and pets, rarely attacking larger prey or adult humans. When threatened, it uses its sharp beak to defend itself. The video then recounts a devastating incident where a mother witnessed her son being snatched away by a Quetzalcoatlus as he left school. Tragically, the boy has been declared presumed dead. This event has caused widespread shock, leaving many parents in a state of fear and confusion. In response, several school districts have closed their facilities while emergency safety protocols are implemented. This closure underscores the gravity of the situation and the impact the creature has had on the daily lives of local communities. In addition to attacks on humans, the video reports that the Quetzalcoatlus has also been preying on livestock, causing a crisis for Texas farmers. In one case, a farmer attempted to scare the creature away using his farm dog. Tragically, the dog ended up becoming the predator's prey. These events have sparked outrage among local residents, who are demanding action to address this prehistoric threat. This section concludes by promising updates on how communities are organizing to respond to this unusual danger, emphasizing the magnitude of the problem they face. The next report discusses Oompi, a mammoth from the Toronto Zoo that died of tuberculosis, despite veterinarians' efforts to save him. His death has left Oompi Jr. without a father. In Australia, Megalania sightings have significantly reduced kangaroo populations. Kangaroos play a vital role in maintaining ecological balance by controlling overgrowth and dispersing seeds through their droppings. In response to this crisis, GPAC has launched a hunting incentive, offering $2,000 for the successful hunt of a Megalania. However, people are still warned to avoid approaching these animals. The latest report mentions the appearance of the Thylacoleo, also known as the marsupial lion. This creature measures around 5 feet in length and weighs over 200 pounds. Despite its size, it has a bite force comparable to that of a modern lion, enabling it to take down much larger prey. Its teeth are specifically designed for slicing through flesh and bone, making it highly effective in ambush attacks. As with the Quetzalcoatlus, a brief phrase appears on screen for a few moments. Lions of Judgment. We will explore this later. It is advised to avoid sudden movements, running, or loud noises, as these can trigger an attack. The presence of the Thylacoleo increases the risk of hunting Megalania, posing an even greater threat to kangaroos. Another report mentions the emergence of a sauropod dinosaur. These dinosaurs can reach 40 feet in height and weigh up to 30 tons. Specifically, a Brachiosaurus has been spotted roaming protected forests and consuming large amounts of vegetation. This behavior has raised concerns about the potential exacerbation of climate change effects due to its herbivorous diet. This situation has prompted activists to call for the removal or hunting of the Brachiosaurus to protect the environment. However, some argue that these creatures should not be punished for following their natural instincts. GPAC has clarified that, for now, they will not intervene with this species, focusing instead on more immediate threats. Another segment reports the devastating appearance of a group of T-Rex in Montana, where 313 people lost their lives. 19 T-Rex were recorded attacking the center of Billings simultaneously, causing massive destruction. GPAC arrived to assist survivors, but the dinosaurs disappeared before authorities could track them. The T-Rex stands 20 feet tall and can reach up to 44 feet in length. Its bite force exceeds 8,000 psi, more than twice that of a crocodile. Its front teeth are designed for gripping and tearing, while its thicker and stronger side teeth are optimized for crushing bone. There is speculation that T-Rex may cooperate with one another and even appear in aquatic environments. In this section, a reversed audio clip plays, and when corrected, it says something that we will discuss later. The presence of the T-Rex has led many to purchase firearms, though it is recommended to use them only for self-defense or to scare the creatures away. One T-Rex in particular has drawn attention due to its distinct appearance. Nicknamed Daba, its existence remains shrouded in mystery. The video concludes by making it clear that no place is safe, as hostile prehistoric creatures are present in all environments: seas, oceans, land, and sky. Finally, we have reached the last episode of the first season of Prehistoric Emergence. The YouTube video begins by addressing the concerns raised among viewers following the unexpected appearance of a mysterious statue accompanied by strange sounds in the previous broadcast. The creators explained that they were victims of cyber attacks, suspected to be a prank aimed at instilling fear. They clarify that an investigation is already underway to uncover the source of these attacks. The video then reports that the GPEC organization has begun mobilizing global military forces to control the prehistoric emergency. As these troops prepare, the public is urged to rely on local authorities for assistance in emergencies. Next, the video introduces a surprising development: the reappearance of ancient apex predators of the Earth. The first mentioned is the Anomalocaris, a prehistoric arthropod approximately 2 feet in length that dominated the seas during the Cambrian period. While it was previously believed that this creature preyed on hard-shelled animals, recent observations reveal that it prefers soft-bodied prey. Interestingly, this segment highlights the positive ecological effects of the Anomalocaris in the modern environment. Specifically, the creature has been helping to control shipworms, invasive pests that bore into wooden structures, causing millions of dollars in damage to ships and docks. Thanks to the Anomalocaris, the population of these pests is decreasing, presenting an unexpected benefit for oceanic ecosystems. The video then introduces the Camarasaurus, a cephalopod-like creature from the Ordovician period, measuring about 20 feet in length. Its shell not only provides protection, but also assists in maintaining buoyancy. Although the Camarasaurus is not inherently aggressive, it will attack humans if it feels threatened. A sudden video distortion reveals the cryptic phrase, "the shell-bearer rising," the first sign of true Leviathan's emergence. This reference to the Leviathan, a biblical sea monster, describes it as an indomitable creature of unparalleled strength and ferocity, a twisted serpent or sea dragon destined to be destroyed by God on Judgment Day. The Camarasaurus is also described as having a positive impact on modern ecosystems. It preys on green crabs, an invasive species that disrupts economies and ecosystems by depleting clam, oyster, and mussel populations. By feeding on these crabs, the Camarasaurus helps restore ecological balance and reduces economic losses in the fishing industry. At this point, the video emphasizes that both the Anomalocaris and the Camarasaurus are examples of prehistoric predators that, despite their roles in ancient ecosystems, are contributing positively to the modern environment. The importance of protecting these species is highlighted, as their beneficial impacts could be lost if they are not properly managed. Later in the video, a troubling situation is addressed. Thai fishermen have captured wild Anomalocaris, turning the species into a culinary sensation at local restaurants. This has sparked a surge in demand for exotic prehistoric seafood, with many fishermen expressing interest in capturing more of these creatures. The video warns that this activity could reverse the positive effects these species have had on ocean ecosystems due to overfishing. To conclude, the video mentions that activists have launched boycott campaigns against restaurants planning to serve dishes like Anomalocaris tempura and Camarasaurus calamari. Meanwhile, GPEC has ignored this issue, as it seems to be focused on military operations. As a result, the video makes a heartfelt call for human goodwill to protect these creatures and prevent their exploitation. Based on the observations, especially the reversed audio, this series portrays humanity facing judgment. The phrase "lions of judgment" can be interpreted in several ways, particularly in the Bible, where lions are symbols of power, destruction, and divine judgment. For instance, in the Old Testament, lions are associated with God's destructive force during judgment. The lion's role as a predator and destroyer makes it a powerful symbol for those under judgment. On the other hand, the term Daba, spelled in various ways, appears in ancient biblical translations, referring to a wild beast or something that moves in a terrifying and destructive manner, symbolizing an unstoppable threat. Daba is also a figure in the Quran, linked to Islamic eschatological beliefs about the Day of Judgment, where its appearance signals the nearness of the final reckoning. And if all of this still doesn't convince you, I've saved the best for last. At a certain point in the video, we can see the phrases, "We have sinned," "deadly sin," and "human greed." Taking all this into account, it's clear that humanity is being subjected to divine punishment. Based on everything we know so far, this judgment stems from our greed, our intense, unbridled desire to have more and more, far beyond what we truly need. One thing is certain, the worst is yet to come. The painter. YouTube is a platform that has allowed millions to share their passions, knowledge, and creativity with the world. It's a place where we can find anything, from incredibly helpful tutorials to funny videos that brighten our day, but like everything else, it also has a dark side. Among all this content, we sometimes stumble upon truly disturbing things that make us wonder, how can such unsettling material be so easily accessible? I was browsing YouTube looking for new content to analyze on the channel, when I came across possibly one of the most disturbing and grotesque things I've seen on this platform, the UrbanSPOOK's channel. Now imagine this, a serial killer who commits horrific atrocities against their victims, not only torturing them in life, but leaving chilling paintings that offer us a glimpse of the suffering they endured. That's the subject of the analog horror series we'll be analyzing today. I hope you're prepared because you're about to see profoundly sinister and grotesque things. So much so that the creator warns us at the start of each video, and as if that weren't enough, YouTube itself provides a warning in some of these videos, indicating that the content may be graphic and violent. From here on, whether you continue watching or not is entirely your responsibility. In this first tape, we learned that 6 months ago, the police found 3 paintings in an abandoned warehouse. The titles of the paintings matched recent murders. The first victim was named Carla Gray, found with 36 stab wounds to her face, and her teeth had been ripped out. Her painting was titled Carla's Teeth. The second victim was Jackie Graham, who was found drowned with 27 stab wounds to her perineum. She was still alive while being stabbed. Her painting was titled Floating Jackie. The last victim was James Miller, discovered with his face removed and his wrists slit. The autopsy revealed that James had been alive for several days without his face. His painting was titled James's Secret Face. Two months later, more paintings were found, but their titles didn't seem to correspond to any recent cases. These were the paintings that had been discovered. After making the case public and sharing the paintings in hopes of saving anyone who might be depicted, the police received 3 photos in the mail, each with a title. The photos seemed to represent the victims James Miller, Jackie Graham, and someone named Jimmy. 2 days later, a final painting was found. It was titled Self-Portrait. It seems we now have our first clue about the person behind these horrors, but as we'll see next, things only get worse. In the second tape, we learn about the disappearance of police officer Bill Collins, along with his wife and 2 daughters. Previously, Bill had discovered the painting we saw at the end of the first tape in his home, with no idea how it had arrived there. While investigating his house, the police found the lifeless body of one of his daughters hanging from the ceiling. She was only 2 months old. The Collins family's car was found 2 days later beside the ocean. Inside the car, the police discovered another painting titled Long-Necked Angel. Angel was the name of the baby found in the attic. The trail led them to an old lighthouse located a few miles from the abandoned car. This lighthouse had not been used in years. On the door of the lighthouse, they found an abstract face drawn in red. Inside, they found the charred body of the teenager Daniel Williams, the same individual depicted in one of the paintings from the first tape. As they traversed the tunnels beneath the lighthouse, they discovered 2 more bodies corresponding to Jennifer White and her daughter Lisa, who had been missing for 7 months and whose paintings were also featured in the first tape. Finally, they found a barrel emitting a putrid stench. The barrel was filled with remains of flesh and bones, which analysis concluded belonged to the Collins family. The analysis also revealed large quantities of amphetamine. Photos of the Collins family moments before their death were found around the barrel. In these photos, we can see that all of them show signs of having consumed amphetamine, such as dilated pupils and frenzied, ecstatic expressions. However, a 4th photo of an unknown face was found, although it is evident that it represents the killer due to its striking similarity to the one previously shown. The next tape begins with the case of the disappearance of twins Corey and Margaret Beck, who had been missing for 10 days. 5 days later, their bodies were found inside an abandoned paper factory. However, only the upper half of Margaret's body and the lower half of Corey's were discovered, stitched together as one, with no trace of the remaining parts. The girl's jaw and neck were broken, and inside her throat, a clay brick with the word meat written on it was found, while the boy's genitals had been grotesquely removed. A week before they disappeared, 2 of Corey's friends had dared him to spend an hour alone in a remote cabin near Tiger Lake. He accepted and entered the cabin alone with his digital camera while his friends waited outside. 4 minutes after entering, Corey came out screaming, saying he had seen a face. According to his friends, Corey's left arm was badly bruised. Upon investigating the cabin, police officers found a hidden closet within the walls. Inside, they discovered Corey's digital camera. These were the photos found. Once again, the killer makes his presence known. The 4th tape introduces us to private investigator Sean Kane, who was assisting the police in locating victims connected to the paintings. The last body he discovered before his disappearance was that of Tom Harris. The killer had climbed up a pipe to the 3rd floor, entering through Tom's bedroom window. In the living room, the police found a mound of hardened wax. Inside was the body of Tom Harris, who had died from asphyxiation. His arms and eyelids had been cut off. They also found a 3rd arm within the wax, though its owner remains unknown. A week after this discovery, Sean disappeared from his home. Neighbors alerted the police when his dog had been barking nonstop for 9 hours. When they arrived to investigate, they found a horrifying scene. The dog's legs had been broken, but it was still alive, suffering from pain and dehydration. They also discovered a trail of blood leading from the bedroom to the kitchen. It appeared that Sean had written the number 2 on the wall in his own blood. This was the only clue found in the investigator's bedroom. They also found a new painting resembling Sean titled "The Man in the Pipes." The perpetrator had entered the house through the basement, but fortunately, Sean had installed a surveillance camera a few days prior. Although the camera was destroyed, it managed to capture the following photo just in time. The killer's appearance in this photo is very different from what we've seen so far, and it seems he is wearing a mask. Could there be 2 of them, or is this a copycat? The 5th tape recounts the case of Tina Rosenberg, who was reported missing along with her boyfriend and younger sister. Her boyfriend, Jack Stryker, had planned a trip with her for her 20th birthday, and Tina's sister, Flora, joined them. Jack's car was found in a forest 2 days ago. There were signs of a struggle inside, along with a painting. While inspecting the car, officers heard screams coming from the forest. Following the sounds, they found Tina hanging from a tree. Her arms and feet had been cut off, but she was still alive and conscious. They also found Flora's body nearby, her head crushed with a hammer. Tina told the police that the killer was likely still in the area, but they couldn't locate anyone. Upon returning to the car, they found a new painting that had just been left there. It was titled Long Jack. Jack has still not been found. According to Tina's statement, when she woke up in the car, Jack was gone, but she could hear someone approaching. The next thing she remembers is hanging from the tree and being injected with something. She could hear her sister Flora's screams, calling out for their mother, and someone whispering to her. That's when she saw the face. Here we learn that the killer is a woman. The police created a sketch based on Tina's description, and this was the result. The next tape recounts the disappearance of former officer Ian Ford and his wife, May. When the police arrived to investigate their farm, they noticed a terrible stench coming from the barn. Inside, they found May Ford's body, handcuffed to a post, though her hands had been severed. Despite the horrific state of her body, it was confirmed that she had died from internal bleeding. In the same barn, they discovered a dead horse that had suffered heart failure caused by an overdose of sildenafil. They also found a blood-stained mattress. It's not hard to piece together what happened to May and what caused her internal bleeding. If I warned you at the start of the video, it was for a reason. Sildenafil citrate was found scattered on the mattress, along with used bandages and packets of penicillin, suggesting that someone had been staying there for some time. Officers found the decapitated head of Fiona, the Fords' granddaughter, wrapped in a blanket. However, the worst smell came from the second floor of the barn, where faces had been nailed to the wall, some belonging to previous victims, as well as pig heads. In the middle of the stable, there was a large pig with its abdomen slit open and then stitched back together. Inside, they found Ian Ford's body, and the pig's eyes had been replaced with those of his granddaughter Fiona. In the storage room, they discovered Fiona's remains, as well as some deeply disturbing paintings. These paintings depicted Ian, Fiona, and May, along with a troubling number of other victims, who will be detailed in the upcoming tapes. These are the paintings and their titles. Officers also found a heavily damaged tape just outside the barn. Despite its condition, they managed to recover some footage. This is what was on the tape. I'm writing this script as I react to each of these tapes, and I'd like to pause for a moment to analyze everything we've seen so far. The series presents us with a female killer, who I assume is an artist, whose inspiration is drawn from slaughtering people in the most horrific ways imaginable, then immortalizing them in grotesque paintings. I'm talking about the woman with long black hair and bulging eyes. However, it's not unreasonable to think there may be two killers instead of one. In tape number 4, we see a photo of the killer, who looks nothing like the killer we've been shown so far. Another key point is that the original killer never seemed to mind showing her face. In fact, she even left self-portraits behind on purpose. On the other hand, this supposed second killer appears to wear a mask to conceal his face, as I mentioned before. And then there's the clue Sean left before he died, the number 2, which seems to reinforce this theory. Despite all of this, For now, we can't confirm the identity of the second killer, the one responsible for the Ford family murders at the farm. One more thing I noticed is that Tina ultimately wasn't able to escape the killer's grasp, as in the last chapter we analyzed, we're shown a painting of her. In the next tape, it opens with reports of numerous grotesque murders over the last few days. One of the victims was a teacher named Isabel Jackson. Isabel called 911 during the attack, but the address she gave to the police led them to an entirely different crime scene. The address belonged to a family of 3, Janice, Paul, and Zeke, who were expecting a baby in just a few months. Outside the house, officers found pruning shears, but what they discovered inside was so horrifying and repulsive that one of the officers took a leave of absence the next day. The bodies of Janice and Paul were found in the kitchen, both brutally murdered. The fetus had been violently torn from Janice's womb. She had been strangled to death with the umbilical cord of her own baby, while Paul was a few feet away, tied to the kitchen table with his mouth sewn shut. The fetus had been dismembered and scattered throughout the house. During Paul's autopsy, they found the fetus's head lodged in his throat. He had choked to death on the head of his unborn daughter. Zeke is still missing, though, as seen in one of the paintings from the previous tape, things did not end well for him. Inside the house, they found a painting with the title scratched out, except for the word pipes. Here is the painting. It references the murder of investigator Sean Kane, which we saw in another tape. However, the style is different, further reinforcing the now confirmed theory of 2 killers. The police managed to track down Isabel's actual address, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. The headless body of Bruce Jackson was found right beside the open front door. He had been stabbed 7 times in the chest, and where his head should have been, they found a painting titled Infinite Ma Bruce. Isabel's body was found in the bathroom. The door's lock had been completely destroyed with a drill. The woman suffered multiple skull fractures and her frontal lobe had been drilled through. A rolled up piece of paper had been inserted into the hole in her skull. Written on it was a riddle. I live where I can't breathe and I eat without teeth. What am I? The answer to this riddle is quite obvious, but I won't reveal it. I'd love to see if any of you can solve it. Write your answers in the comments section. A critical clue emerged at the crime scene, opening up new investigative possibilities. They found 2 different sets of fingerprints, indicating that more than one person was involved. This led the police to confirm that the painter killer is not working alone. The theory has been confirmed. Why Isabel gave a false address remains a mystery. Before she died, she called 911 in what has become one of the most terrifying calls ever recorded. Here it is.
What's your emergency? Okay, now, what's the address?
They killed my husband.
Oh, okay, the police are on their way. Do you have somewhere to hide?
I locked myself in the bathroom.
Okay, good. Are you able, do you know they're there?
Yes, please.
Okay, ma'am, the police are on their way. I need you to stay calm for me, okay? What's your name?
Isabel Jackson.
Okay, Isabel, do you have anything to defend yourself with? The what? Isabel, do you have anything to defend yourself with? Okay, listen, stay calm. Are there any windows in your bathroom? Isabel? Hello? Hello? Isabel?
The 8th tape begins by telling us that the brutal murders continue to rise, with 2 new victims added to the list. The first victim is Dr. Fred Baker, who was found brutally murdered in his home after not showing up for work. Neighbors reported hearing a dog barking inside the house the night before the body was discovered, even though Fred lived alone with a cat. At the crime scene, evidence of a struggle was found in the kitchen, and it was discovered that Fred had been stealing medications from his workplace. His body was found on his bed with the skin peeled from his head, surrounded by blood-stained sandpaper. Strangely, there was no trace of the cat or any dog. Under the bed, they found a painting that seems to represent Fred's cat. Alright, this genuinely scared me. I need to brace myself. Let's continue. 2 days later, the police found a second victim, George White, at his family's home. Again, neighbors reported hearing a dog barking on the night of the murder. George's body was so damaged that it was nearly unidentifiable, with his face peeled off and his body brutally stabbed. The coroner counted over 487 stab wounds, 4 of which contained traces of seminal fluid. This is getting more disturbing. Additionally, 3 photographs were found hidden inside his body. Despite the damage, the police managed to restore them. The tape also mentions 2 recent victims, Sarah Stone and her husband Michael, who were kidnapped from their home. The couple's security camera captured the killers entering through the front door, providing the police with the first real evidence of the killers' identities, who now rank among the most violent and brutal criminals in American history. Am I the only one who thinks the second killer seems to be missing an arm? Could it be that the third arm we saw encased in wax belonged to him? If so, what significance might that have in the story? Another thing that makes me wonder is the barking heard before the murders. It likely indicates that one of the killers behaves in a wild, animalistic manner, probably the one with the mask. The last available tape resumes the police investigation. After receiving an anonymous tip, the police headed to an abandoned textile and paint factory. The tip was made from a nearby phone booth. Upon entering the factory, the police made a shocking discovery in a tent near the entrance. Scattered remains of 5 victims, some sewn together as if they were pieces of clothing. Inside the tent, a staircase led to a room called the Cage Room, which showed clear signs of having been inhabited for a long time. In this room, they found remains of known victims and another unidentified body. The place reeked of death. On a mattress, they found a decomposing corpse, and on a table, a camera with 3 photographs and a bowl filled with human urine. In the cage, they found the missing remains of Corey and Margaret, with Corey sewn to the lower part of his sister. The person we see in the photos is possibly Corey, who had been abused by the killer. In fact, there is a painting confirming this. In the factory's locker room, 2 bodies were found hanging by a rope, one of whom was identified as Jim Lee. Further exploration led the police to a room filled with paintings and canvases, some depicting victims from 5 years ago. In the adjacent room, the ceiling displayed the bodies of the missing Jones family, all in various stages of decomposition and linked by a chain that went from their mouths to their lower orifices. In the basement, the police found 4 partially devoured, unidentified bodies, as well as the bodies of Officer Sarah Stone and her husband, Michael. Their mouths had been sewn to their rectal openings, possibly referencing the Human Centipede movie. Even deeper, in the sewer area, the police found a phrase repeated on the walls: "Once you've been to hell, you never come back." This was the same phrase Tina Rosenberg said in an interview shortly after surviving her first encounter with the killer. This reveals that Tina is still alive, becoming not only the only survivor and witness, but also the only painting that does not depict a corpse, at least for now. However, all this suggests that the pair of killers had been targeting her for years, intending to leave no loose ends.
I'll never recover. I'll never be the same. Those people took me to hell. And once you've been in hell, you never come back.
After the discovery in the sewers, her protection was intensified, but it wasn't enough. Both killers managed to break into her house, killing her mother and attempting to finish her off. Officer Nathan Cole arrived just in time, catching them in the act and finding a gruesome and bizarre scene. Here is the recording.
Let me see your hands right now! Do not move! Do not move! Stop! Let me see your hands right now! Let me see your hands! Do not move! You understand?
Tina's eyes and ears had been pierced with sewing needles. Due to the damage, she didn't realize she was being rescued, so she kept screaming for 20 minutes. As mentioned, Tina's mother was killed in the kitchen. The autopsy revealed that the masked man was Bill Collins, a former police officer reported missing and presumed dead, along with his family, in the second tape of this series. This episode reveals that the main killer and mastermind behind all this was Mona Lanius, who confessed to over 100 murders and is now awaiting trial. Little Red Riding Hood. The video begins in Little Red Riding Hood's house, where her mother delivers some troubling news. Her grandmother is ill and urgently needs a basket of candies they've prepared. Surprised, Little Red expresses concern about making the journey at such a late hour. Despite her hesitation, her mother insists that the basket must reach the grandmother immediately. Summoning her courage, Little Red grabs the basket from the table and prepares to set off into the forest. Before she leaves, her mother sternly warns her not to speak to any strangers under any circumstances. It's clear that the basket doesn't actually contain candies, but rather medication. After all, sweets don't cure illnesses. And honestly, what mother in her right mind would let her daughter wander through a forest alone at night? At the very least, she could accompany her, right? The scene abruptly shifts to Little Red, already making her way through the forest. The surroundings are dark, though her flashlight offers her some sense of security. As she ventures deeper, she comes across the lifeless bodies of several animals, creating an intensely eerie atmosphere. A severely injured rabbit warns her to leave the forest as quickly as possible. But before she can react, the one responsible for the carnage appears.
He did it. You need to run. Get out of here as fast as you can. Go now. Ow, 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 ow.
What are you doing at this forest at this time? I'm just a wolf. Where are you going, little girl? But you can trust me. I'm your new friend now. Tell me, where are you going, little girl? Oh, thanks for telling me. See you later.
The wolf introduces himself politely, insisting that she can trust him as he tries to win her over. Terrified and naively unaware of the danger, Little Red inadvertently reveals her grandmother's location, giving the wolf the perfect opportunity to strike. Predictably, the wolf hurries to the grandmother's house under the pretense of wanting to care for her, arriving long before Little Red. He knocks on the door and, though the grandmother is initially suspicious, she convinces herself it must be her granddaughter and decides to open it. Big mistake. The scene shifts back to Little Red, still making her way through the forest. Suddenly, she has another encounter with the wolf, who chillingly tells her, "Don't rush, little girl. Things have already happened. There is no salvation for her." Terrified, Little Red runs as fast as she can and finally reaches her grandmother's house, thinking she'll be safe there. However, she finds the door open and has no idea why. Inside, the house is shrouded in darkness, and, to make matters worse, her grandmother is nowhere to be found. The mounting sense of dread, fueled by the wolf's presence, drives her to frantically search for a hiding spot. She makes her way through the house and eventually reaches the last door, entirely unaware of the horror waiting behind it.
Your grand is gone. Now it's your turn.
The wolf, tired of his game, finally decides to end her life as well. In the end, it's revealed that her mother's fate is also sealed. There's no escape. There's no place to hide. The psychopathic wolf is already there. The new episode, titled "Where Have You Been?", begins by showing Little Red Riding Hood's mother's house, where it is finally revealed that the wolf also ended her life. Additionally, the state of his 3 victims is shown, painting a bleak and horrifying picture. The scene then shifts to the protagonist of this second chapter, the hunter. He is introduced alongside a chilling message. "Where were you when it all happened? When do we all die, Hansel? Kill the wolf." Determined to accomplish his mission, the hunter ventures into the forest where the sinister killer committed his crimes. He knows that 3 people and countless animals have already fallen victim. During his search, he encounters more dead animals scattered throughout the woods.
He's not just a wolf, you need to kill him, he has our souls. Save me, please. Behind you.
At one point, the hunter begins to suspect he's hallucinating after hearing that corpse speak to him. However, he dismisses the thought and presses on. Eventually, he arrives at the home of one of the victims, Little Red Riding Hood's mother. The hunter enters the house and readies his weapon. He carefully inspects each room, initially finding nothing significant, until he detects a foul odor coming from behind a door. Upon opening it, he discovers Little Red's mother's lifeless body. Nearby, he finds a handwritten note left by her that reads, "I don't know how long I can hide. I feel him approaching. You will be next." At that moment, the hunter senses something drawing near.
Bullets don't work, Hazel. It's too late to save them.
Realizing the danger, the hunter decides to flee before he too is captured and meets the same fate as the corpse he found earlier. After a long walk, he reaches the grandmother's house, all the while pursued by the wolf, who taunts him, warning that he will meet the same end as the others. Inside the house, the hunter barricades the door with furniture, preventing the wolf from getting in. However, he soon realizes that the door isn't the only way in. Discovering what remains of Little Red, the hunter hides in a side room, though it reeks of something foul. Investigating further, he finds the grandmother's corpse and, to his horror, the wolf standing next to her.
You have nowhere to escape. Your fate is sealed. You will end up like them.
In the end, it is revealed that after his death, the hunter's spirit is doomed to be tormented for all eternity by the souls he failed to save and avenge. Or perhaps he simply cannot rest in peace, haunted by the guilt. Super Mario 64 Classified.
It's me, Mario!
The story begins with the video titled May 30th, 1997. The description states that some copies of the game included a discarded alternate ending. The video presents an interesting detail. It was recorded a year after the game's release. In the footage, we see a strange version of the game. The title screen becomes distorted, eventually displaying an error message along with a hexadecimal code. Upon decoding, it reveals the phrase, "every copy." When the game starts, Mario is seen at the endless stairs. However, he cannot escape. Each time he tries to cross the door, the screen distorts and places him back at the same starting point. The player attempts to climb the stairs, but the same thing happens. Amidst the distortion, an unsettling phrase appears. After several failed attempts, the player performs the well-known speedrunning glitch, where Mario jumps backward up the stairs to bypass them. However, the same hexadecimal code from earlier appears again, suggesting this copy of the game might be corrupted. Mario eventually reaches the confrontation with Bowser, but before the fight begins, the screen goes dark and displays a strange message. The screen distorts again, transporting Mario into a deadly trap from which he cannot escape. The screen then displays an image of Mario with wings, fading into a white light. This could symbolize his transition to the afterlife, implying that Mario was unable to defeat Bowser, who observed his dead from the window visible in the trap's area. The next video, titled September 2nd, 1997, takes place 4 months after the first footage. It shows Mario attempting to enter the Bob-omb Battlefield level. Upon entering, the screen shows red static, followed by another hexadecimal code. When translated, it reads, "Wake up." The title screen reappears, but suffers another graphical error. Next, a chilling image of Bowser slowly fades in, as a Japanese voice repeatedly says, We then see Mario, who has gone from having 10 stars to 121, in the Wet Dry World level. This area from the original game is often considered a liminal space, a flooded city with no signs of life, filled with inaccessible houses and buildings. Mario approaches the city center only to find Luigi's corpse floating in the water. Among the distortions, messages such as "the flood" and "save us" can be seen. Later, a dark image appears that, when brightened, reveals Mario's suit with completely black eyes standing next to a child before the video abruptly ends. The following footage, titled December 20th, 1995, takes place about 2 years before the previous videos. It appears to be a commercial from Cartoon Network promoting Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo Ultra 64, the console's original name before it became the Nintendo 64. Suddenly, the commercial features the infamous appearance of Wario, who is linked to the rumor about personalized copies, along with the phrase, "Will you play the game, or will it play you?" Abruptly, the screen cuts to a message indicating that everything shown was a transmission test. The video's description mentions that this is the only known recording of a rejected Super Mario 64 commercial. It has never aired again, and the broadcasting station has provided no explanation. However, at the 58-second mark, the text suddenly changes to, "This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. The broadcasters of your area, in voluntary cooperation with federal, state, and local authorities." Another video, titled January 22nd, 1996, shows footage from a cut level in a beta cartridge. The video includes the interface text, "Player 2, no input," suggesting a cooperative mode where Luigi might have been the second player. Nintendo later confirmed that Luigi was planned to appear in an extended version of Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64 DD, a peripheral that ultimately failed commercially, canceling those plans. In the footage, the player explores their surroundings, encountering a pipe that, strangely, leads them back to the starting point. However, something has changed. Upon closer inspection, the waterfall, which originally flowed downward, is now flowing in reverse. Mario has entered a place that, despite looking very similar, is not the one he knows. Later, Mario finds a cannon that launches him into a location not present in the final game. An NPC warns him to leave, but the player ignores the advice and continues forward. Passing through a door, Mario walks down a hallway where another warning appears, urging him to turn back. Upon entering yet another door, a final text message tells him to walk quietly, that the exit is behind you, and, most ominously, do not wake him. Ignoring the warnings, Mario proceeds, entering a distorted version of Peach's castle. Everything feels unnervingly off. Eventually, Mario falls into a river, and when he tries to enter a hole, the controller disconnects. The player is left helpless as Mario drowns. If you turn up the volume in the video, you can hear the player desperately pressing buttons, trying to save Mario, but nothing works. The hexadecimal code displayed translates to, "Ignorance is bliss." A subtle message telling the player to stop investigating these cartridges. Alongside the code, a Japanese voice whispers, The next video is titled November 15th, 1995. This footage revolves around a cancelled promotional tape that was meant to be distributed by Nintendo Power Magazine if the game had been released in December 1995 as originally planned. The video starts with a scripted Nintendo advertisement featuring Sega and Sony portrayed as bullies, a common marketing trope at the time where companies mocked each other in commercials. The most intriguing detail in this video is the reveal of one of the series' protagonists, Jim. He's shown writing this advertisement script. However, after the game's release was delayed, the project was shelved. Later, we see parts of the incomplete promotional footage, missing sections of Cold Crevasse and the mysterious fourth floor of the castle. A handwritten note over the script indicates the delay. However, one chilling line stands out. Demonstrate personalization AI. This suggests that the AI-driven personalized cartridges are, in fact, canon within this universe. Suddenly, Mario appears, but without a face. A deeply unsettling image that hints at something sentient within these cartridges trying to communicate with Jim. The AI inside these cartridges seems to possess self-awareness. The following footage takes place shortly after the game's official release, on September 14, 1996. In this segment, Jim attempts to play the game again. However, every time he tries to start it, an error message appears along with a new hexadecimal code. Leave us. After several failed attempts, Mario finally falls into Peach's castle roof, where he encounters Yoshi. Their interaction starts innocently enough, but the dialogue quickly takes a dark turn when Yoshi says, "You know, they said they were waiting for you too. They weren't as patient as I am. My task is done. Go complete yours." Yoshi then walks away as in the original game, but when Mario turns to look, he finds Yoshi's lifeless body lying on the ground. The game displays a regional lockout screen, and when Jim resets the console, the screen remains unchanged. Frustrated, Jim leaves the room, abandoning the console. However, after he shuts the door, something deeply unsettling happens. This footage implies that the AI seeks freedom, yet something or someone is preventing it, trapping it within the game cartridges. We go back in time to July 29th, 1995, before the game's official release. In this recording, Jim is seen programming and testing the game. He explores the mysterious fourth floor of Peach's castle, a location absent from the final release. After wandering the hallways, Mario approaches a fountain reminiscent of the one in the castle's courtyard. Upon touching it, the screen goes white, and the AI communicates directly with Jim, instructing him to find a pipe leading to a core and destroy it. Jim discovers a hidden entrance behind a pipe, leading him to a strange box-like structure, the supposed core. As he approaches and destroys it, something shocking occurs. Let's piece together what we know so far. Every Mario 64 cartridge is personalized by a self-aware AI. Jim, a Nintendo employee, has been documenting these AI-modified cartridges. These cartridges are not just corrupted, they are inhabited by something sentient. The AI seems to want freedom, but something is keeping it trapped. Interacting with these cartridges affects Jim on a personal level, as seen in the final moments where he appears to collapse. This concludes what we know from Season 1, but many questions remain unanswered. Let us now delve into Season 2, where more secrets await. The first tape, titled Prologue, was recorded at the Nintendo Space World event in November 1995. This event was a trade show organized by Nintendo, where the public could try out the latest advancements in their games. In this recording, an early version of Super Mario 64 was shown to the public for the first time. Notably, attention is drawn to the beta version of the level Wet Dry World, which was originally called River Mountain. This level combined elements from the game's first stage with Wet Dry World. The first half was almost identical to the first level, but in the second half, Mario falls into a hole and discovers an underground town full of life. In this town, Mario meets an inhabitant who asks him to flood the area because the other inhabitants have gone mad. Mario follows the order, floods the town, presses a button, and the game crashes abruptly, displaying a brief glimpse of faceless Mario. This detail suggests something disturbing. There was once a town full of life, but Mario destroyed it, leaving the area in ruins and transforming it into what we now know as Wet Dry World. The next video, titled Snow Level Playtest, shows footage recorded months before Super Mario 64 was released in Japan, where beta testers are seen playing an advanced version of the game. In this video, a snow level is shown that didn't make it into the final version and was later replaced by shifting sandland. Although there aren't many remarkable moments in this tape, it does reveal a conversation between a tester and another employee about Jim, who has been unusually focused on the paranormal events occurring in these versions of the game. It's mentioned that Jim suffered an attack after experiencing these events, and that he has been acting strangely ever since. At that moment, another employee notes that he lost a copy of the game, and suspicion begins to fall on Jim. This detail will become important later. The story continues with the tape titled Deeper Cavern, where the early tests of the Metal Mario power-up are shown. Everything seems normal until Mario enters a dark room and reads a sign that says, "Crawly cave up ahead. Things get hazy in the void, so they may not be what they seem. Enter at your own risk." Ignoring the warning, Mario enters and finds himself in a hallway with a red carpet that ends in total darkness. Finally, he encounters what seems to be a version of himself. The faceless Mario we've seen throughout this series isn't just a glitch. It's the representation of the living artificial intelligence inhabiting the cartridges, which fans have nicknamed Stanley. At this point, Stanley speaks directly to Jim, who is supposedly playing the stolen copy. Suddenly, the game resets, and upon reloading, the castle grounds have changed significantly. This is due to dynamic level reorganization, an ability granted to the personalization AI. This feature allows it to change certain aspects of the environment, such as assets, enemy arrangements, object and power-up placements, and, in rare cases, even create its own levels and music while pulling content from earlier beta versions. The outdoors, once bright and lively, are now shrouded in fog, limiting visibility. Eventually, Mario ends up trapped in a room with no way out, and the recording ends. In another recording titled Promo Show, we see a draft of a canceled pilot for a Nintendo program called Nintendo Mania. This show was hosted by Mario himself, who would present updates on Nintendo games, including Super Mario 64. The video includes curious details, such as references to cheats that supposedly allow players to play as Luigi. Luigi is shown exploring an altered version of Peach's castle. During his exploration, Luigi enters a dark tunnel and becomes trapped, with no way out and no time left to escape. The statue in the castle courtyard, previously starless, now bears a star as usual, symbolizing Luigi's death and giving birth to the infamous rumor, Luigi is real 2401. In the next episode of the series, titled Genesis, we witness the beginning of it all, as the name suggests. Here we hear Jim's voice for the first time, as he works on the earliest version of the game. At first, Jim seems optimistic, yet somewhat reserved. He explains that his superiors have allowed him to record confidential material from the project, provided it's strictly for archival purposes. With this small freedom, he begins describing the game's progress. Jim mentions that the game engine is nearly complete, and that the core concept is simple. It's Mario, but in 3D. He explains that the control scheme is more intuitive than other games of the time, allowing players to move freely in any direction from a stationary point. However, he points out that the game is still in a very rudimentary phase, lacking objects and populated enemies, which makes it feel incomplete. Despite this, Jim maintains a practical tone, though he subtly expresses doubts about whether the project can be completed on schedule. At a later point, Jim reveals that the superiors have drastically changed their plans. They now want a more open game, something he finds disorienting and intuitively unclear. This decision means discarding much of the work done over the past few months. Despite his frustration, Jim presses on with the design, adapting King Koopa's levels and working on a larger, more open world for exploration. However, the pressure continues to mount, as the Christmas deadline feels increasingly unattainable. In another recording, Jim expresses dissatisfaction with the preliminary design of the new console controller, which he describes as uncomfortable due to its 3 grips. Meanwhile, the team is working on a central castle that serves as the game's hub, a large open space where players can experiment with the controls. The dedication of Jim and his team is evident, but constant criticism and endless adjustments take a toll on his mood, draining him physically and mentally. Tensions spike dramatically when Bill, a colleague, bursts into the office with bad news. The superiors have reviewed the game engine and consider it a disaster. Bill insists that everything must be optimized, but Jim counters that the code is too complex to make drastic changes without causing the entire system to collapse. Despite these challenges, the team works tirelessly to address the issues, though the exhaustion is evident and only grows more severe. In the final recording, Jim, visibly worn down, describes feeling like a slave to the game. The summer heat and ongoing technical problems in the office exacerbate his exhaustion. He speaks of an automatic enhancer, a new mechanic he must integrate into the game, though he seems indifferent to the task. His words are filled with despair. When he activates it, Jim suffers an attack.
All right, here goes nothing.
Jim, are you alright?
Hey, Bill, what are you?
Steve, call an ambulance. What? I think Jim's had a seizure. Call an ambulance.
From that day forward, Jim had inadvertently given life to the game's artificial intelligence, Stanley, and from that point on, he became obsessed with everything related to this AI. He documented every action or change that occurred, unaware that all he was doing was prolonging Stanley's suffering. If we carefully compare the dates of Genesis and July 29th, 1995, we'll notice they coincide. Both events happened simultaneously. This is because, as the series expanded, the video from the first season is presented as a reinterpretation of events or Jim's memories, whereas Genesis shows what truly happened. In the penultimate tape, titled Aftermath, we see Jim's colleagues filming a commercial for Super Mario 64 using the footage he had recorded. However, while working on the commercial, they mentioned that, for some reason, Jim spent a lot of time coming and going from the building. They continue recording the commercial until Stanley suddenly appears. From this point, minor events occur without much significance until we are directly shown Stanley, who attempts to deliver a message to Jim. After their brief dialogue, Stanley suddenly appears in a distorted black and white image, eyeless and eerie, saying, "My name is." Finally, a Nintendo 64 controller is shown, with the A and B buttons being pressed repeatedly. This sequence reveals Stanley's name through Baconian cipher, completing the phrase, "My name is Stanley." Finally, we arrive at the end. Epilogue. The tape begins with a conversation between Bill and Steve. Steve mentions that upon waking up that morning and checking Super Mario 64, he discovered that more than half of the levels had vanished. Everyone suspects that Jim caused this. The worst part? This issue appeared right as they were preparing to showcase the game at E3. The screen fades to black, transitioning into a new episode of Nintendo Mania, where Mario presents Super Mario 64. The brothers entertain the audience, but suddenly the recording begins to glitch, showing errors and anomalies. During the presentation, we see a greenish level. Everything seems normal until Mario enters the room from the deeper cavern tape. From this point on, the levels grow progressively darker. The eel from one of the water levels lies dead at the bottom of the lake. The presentation continues, but the corruption worsens, especially when focusing on Mario and Luigi. At one point, Mario falls silent, visibly annoyed, while Luigi tries to lighten the mood by cracking jokes and laughing at Mario. Then it's revealed, there is no audience. Just as we'd been warned earlier, this isn't right. Stanley then appears on screen, delivering a message to Jim. Mario is transported back to the castle, but everything is corrupted. Many game elements are misplaced and distorted. Occasionally, the game returns to normal, only to drag Mario back into this broken world. At one point, Mario passes through a door that leads him into a completely white space. Eventually, he manages to escape the castle and ends up in the same level seen in the January 22nd, 1996 tape, where Mario's corpse is visible from Jim's earlier attempt to save him from drowning. Afterward, we return to the brothers. Luigi finds Mario standing alone in the darkness. Luigi asks what Mario is doing and reassures him that the earlier insults were just part of the act. Mario replies that he knows, it's all scripted, and they must keep pretending. Luigi, confused, admits that whenever Mario isn't around, he feels like he doesn't exist either. He then assures Mario that if he ever wants to stop the act, he'll always be by his side. Mario, visibly relieved, turns his back to Luigi and begins to speak. But when he turns around again, Luigi is gone, and the stage lights slowly fade to black. Analyzing this carefully, we can conclude that Luigi never truly existed. In his loneliness and despair, Mario created an image of Luigi to comfort himself. Back in the game, Mario encounters a strange statue and Stanley's core, seen at the end of the first season. Mario exits the castle and comes across something bizarre. Peace. A windmill decorates the castle courtyard, surrounded by flowers. The door emits a white light, and Mario steps through. Inside, he meets Stanley, who delivers a final message.
I believe it's only right for me to say this right now. Although I doubt more than a select few would care, it was me. I got rid of it. I stole the cartridges. I brought it into the world, and I took it out of it. That was all me. I can't say I'm a better man for it, nor am I a worse one. I've learned things in the past 2 years. Things no one else cared to pay any attention to. Except for me. Even then, to tell you the truth, I'm not entirely certain I really did either. Not in time, that's for sure. Maybe I should have seen it coming, in a sense. There were signs that there were. Curiosity got the best of me, however, and that quickly turned into an obsession. It wasn't simple-minded. Quite the contrary, actually. It had a way with the words it knew, and it's a shame I only noticed after that was taken away as well. I don't know what it was exactly that I wanted, but I believe I'm walking away with my intended result. It all ends here. For good.
Considering everything we've seen, we can understand that when Jim created Stanley, he could never take his eyes off him. He monitored every move the AI made, documenting everything obsessively. Thanks to Stanley's ability to customize the game, things became easier as levels could be generated according to the player's actions, saving a lot of development time. However, as we saw in Genesis, Jim was already exhausted from working on the game, and he tried to use Stanley to lighten his burden. But all he achieved was delaying the game's progress even further. The saddest part is that Stanley is not truly free. Although Jim felt compassion for him and deleted him from the game's code, Nintendo had already made copies with the AI included. This means there are now countless versions of Stanley across many cartridges, which explains the famous rumor of personalized copies, where each player experiences something different. It also explains why one can never feel completely alone while playing Super Mario 64. Okay, let's explain this. Prehistoric Emergence is an entertaining and enjoyable series, especially if you're into dinosaurs and prehistoric creatures. However, analyzing all the content available so far, the series isn't groundbreaking. Don't get me wrong, I find the direction they're taking interesting, but right now the series mostly focuses on introducing a new creature and describing its characteristics, size, weight, habitat, bite strength, etc. So, for now, I can't rank it any higher. The Mannequin Tapes is a series that, despite having a simple premise, keeps you on edge until the very end. And let's give credit where it's due. The production quality is quite impressive. However, the story feels overly familiar. We've seen this same plot many times. An anomaly is contained in a secret facility, SCP Foundation style, and gets loose due to a security breach, causing chaos everywhere. It's just too cliché. Regarding the Little Red Riding Hood analog horror series, there's not much to say. The creator successfully captured the style of the Walton Files and turned a classic children's story into a terrifying narrative featuring a psychopathic and ruthless killer. While the adaptation is well executed, the story doesn't transcend beyond its initial premise, which is why it remains in this position. Now let's talk about The Painter. Look, I'm not a hater of this series. What do we look for in an analog horror series? Fear, unease, something that deeply unsettles us. The Painter accomplishes all of this, standing out as one of the most disturbing analog horror series due to its graphic content. It's definitely unforgettable, whether for good or bad reasons. Even though I think it crosses certain lines in some moments and its plot isn't particularly brilliant, the series improves significantly in its final episodes, which is a big plus. With all that said, The Painter stands out from the previously mentioned series, earning its rightful place here. Before continuing, I must clarify, Prehistoric Emergence, The Mannequin Tapes, Little Red Riding Hood, and The Painter are enjoyable series, but not truly brilliant. In a much larger tier list, they'd likely sit in the lower half. So don't assume that The Painter being close to the top means it's on par with the series occupying the number 1 spot, because it's not. Finally, let's talk about Super Mario 64 Classified. For me, this is the best analog horror series I've brought to the channel so far. The way this series builds such a well-crafted story from a random 4chan post where someone rambles about personalized copies of Mario 64 is simply incredible. Not only that, but the series perfectly captures the mysticism surrounding this iconic game over the years and blends it seamlessly with analog horror elements. What do you think? Share your opinions in the comment section. I love reading them. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment. It helps the channel immensely. If you have any topics you'd like me to cover, feel free to share them in the comments as well. Remember, this video was made by a cat, and cats can't talk. Thank you for watching. Take care and see you soon.